All right. Okay, well, thank you guys all so much for joining us today. We've been excited to bring this session together because it highlights a partnership that's grown in a really meaningful way over the last couple of years. DSN is the software that's built specifically for dental specialists, and US Oral Surgery Management is the largest oral surgery DSO in the country. So, what originally started as kind of a typical vendor relationship has shifted over time as we began collaborating much more closely. What began as simply software support became a true partnership focused on helping teams of surgeons and administrators work more efficiently. And today we're working together on cloud transformation, AI powered workflows, as well as the next generation of tools to help OMS groups successfully navigate a changing landscape. So this webinar is a chance to share what we've learned along the way, why cloud adoption has become so important, how AI is already showing real value, as well as what the future of oral surgery technology looks like. So before we get started, I'm going to take a moment to introduce our speakers for today's session. And first up, we have Sam Monaco, who is the CEO of DSN Software. With a background in cybersecurity and systems engineering, he's guided DSN's shift towards cloud-native AI-driven solutions that help practices operate more securely and efficiently. And we also have Ken Harrell, the Vice President of IT at US Oral Surgery Management. And Ken oversees technology and digital strategy for USOSM. With over 2 decades in IT leadership, he's helped unify operations across a national network of practices, leveraging AI and the cloud to streamline and standardize excellence. And I'm Kim Cannon, the Director of Sales at DSN Software. Been with DSN for 20 years and held roles in support and training before settling into a software advisor role. All right, so let's jump right in and start discussing how cloud and AI have moved from buzzwords to business critical tools in this industry. And Ken, I'm going to start with a question for you. From USOSM's vantage point, what were the biggest signs that legacy systems couldn't keep up?
I think what was immediate when I joined the organization was the fact that there was very limited interoperability across different systems that we used. When we talked about what we were using for phones and for referral management and for different things with our practice management systems, we're in an application age. We're not in that Excel macro age anymore. So we need our applications to start talking to each other, and the current systems in use, as anyone that's in an oral surgery practice knows, have been around for a while. And they just weren't doing some of the things that from a manufacturing background where I came from, that was already able to be done because of ERP systems.
And Sam, what are you seeing across DSN clients right now? How has their response been to the cloud and AI, all the new technology?
I'll say, like as the world is evolving, like with every industry around us, like and the evolve of the AI, and obviously like there is a lot of changes in oral surgery as an industry, like it's changing. So the cloud become necessary, like solutions. So when we started like at DSN thinking about the cloud, it came from, like the need of a solution to decentralize, like all servers, like location, the fiber use, and all the issues that was in the industry, like and like still is in the industry. So we have adapted to that, adapted to the consolidation that is happening and the management and the need to centralize cloud enterprise practice management software. And today like on the AI side, there is a lot that is going on, and like and then DSN is kind of like trying to be ahead and then be the leader in that side.
And I think that kind of answered my next question, which is to both of you, and that is this shift being driven more by necessity or opportunity? And it sounds like you're saying it's by necessity.
Yeah, I think that there it's both. Two things can be true at the same time, right? That's what we're talking about. When we started this journey, it was a wonderful practice with very intelligent doctors, with an outstanding practice manager that said, "Hey, I am willing to take on this change that led us down this path." Right. So that was one out of desire to do something new. But we have other practices that the servers that we have are getting so large they're impossible to maintain. And Kim, we have had this conversation, and Sam, we have had this conversation. Please help us figure out how to get out of the hardware game. We don't want to manage servers anymore, and that's what you do when you move to a cloud-based solution. So some of the desire is to get out of that hardware game, not manage that, have our data be, not have to spend a bunch extra to have it so it can be recovered if the worst happens. So a lot of that is driven out of desire to, but the necessity is, look, we're going to be left behind, and somebody else is going to do this if we don't do it. So I won't even say that our CIO Chad Emke likes to say, I like to be leading edge, not bleeding edge. And there's enough of this out there now where we're not bleeding edge, but we can go start taking the action now before. And I know, Sam, you start to squirm when I say this. Eventually, you're going to tell us that DSN on-prem is no longer an option. That's going to happen. Every technology that we've ever used, no one's sitting around using Windows XP, right? Eventually, it's going to go away. And so we want to be in front of that while we still have the choice to do it versus being forced to.
And I really appreciate also the perspective, and it's absolutely true. So I want to say is the expectation for people now is different than 15, 20 years ago. Like the expectation for updates, for requests, for how we can keep up with technologies, with integration is different. And I will say like 10, 15 years ago, the cloud wasn't where it's at today. The technology wasn't there. Like there was issues, there was cost, there was challenges with integrations, how to build this, how to build that, but that doesn't exist today with all the technology we have. And also like with the rise of AI and efficiencies and expectation that I want everything today, I want everything tomorrow, I want everything quick. On the server base, we have a lot of limitation about even when it comes to update. Hey, I need to call the IT, I need to schedule a time, they need to shut down, I need to go there. No one is doing that now. So for us, the ability to push features and to cater to the client's request would be completely different with the cloud. So that's also another side to it. Not only we can do it better now, and the cloud technology is just like the expectation, like from backup, from security, from compliance, from all of it, uptime into like obviously the feature requests that we are doing in the cloud versus the server.
Yeah. So sounds like we're kind of saying that the shift to cloud eventually it's going to be inevitable. So I guess the next question is how to do it successfully. So a couple of questions here. I guess Ken, starting out, and you sort of answered this, but what problem were you like really trying to solve when you began moving practices to the cloud?
I will say, number one, we have when I came in here, and really USOSM started this, and we have a couple of competitors that are moving the space too. This is a very desegregated market. Practices operated independently. So specifically from a DSO perspective, the first thing I wanted to do is not have to manage as many different systems and have them operate as independent siloed things. But when we look to start moving, it was how do we move into something modern and start taking a bit of ownership away from, and I'm going to use the word vendor because I don't consider you guys a vendor anymore, you're a partner, but take the power away from the vendors. We want to start driving the ship, saying this is what we're trying to do, and bring people along with us. And I will tell anybody, it doesn't matter if you're in a DSO or if you're in an individual practice, this effort is going to be the same for everybody. Getting access to your data in the cloud is much easier than trying to get access and build reports out of the older systems. So we wanted to really start taking control of the direction we were going to start going, and part of that is having better access to our data to use Power BI and our tools to build reporting off of.
And along that kind of same line, especially as we're talking about the DSOs, and we are going to get to the smaller offices too. But Sam, from a technology standpoint, how do you build a system that can scale across hundreds of locations without losing the simplicity of the software?
So I want to say like building on an infrastructure, like we are partners with, like obviously DSN is built with an enterprise grade, latest and greatest, cloud technology. But also we partnered with AWS and we use their robust compliance infrastructure. So we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. Like when it comes to infrastructure, we partnered with one of the best. We partnered with their, like HIPAA compliance, healthcare, enterprise grade infrastructure. And that's where all our data is and DSN is actually hosted. So we utilize AWS cloud infrastructure for us. And we continue to evolve. Like DSN is getting an update every month because the need for Ken just stated that we started with one location practice. And now there are hundreds of offices, like they manage. So the need shifts every year. So the communication between us and DSN and the DSO changes. Their need change, and the way that we develop is changing. So to answer your question about how do we build a system, get the feedback from the users. I would say DSN, the way that we are doing it, and Ken can, like confirm that, we have meetings, regular meetings with our biggest partners. We hear them. We listen to what they need. They know what they need the most. We sit down, we brainstorm, and we develop and deliver. So we scale how they scale. We cater the problem, like we cater solution to their problems. And that's how we've been approaching, like this demanding growing market. And this is how we were able to at least develop today a scalable solution.
That's a total departure, right, Sam, from how we used to do it. We have this. It used to be a big grand wedding. That was the approach. Here's the change we're going to bring. Your MSP has to go in. Your local IT has to go in, and they have to touch the machine, and they have to do it. And now it's like it's just a pizza party every month, and the changes that need to happen go in there. And then we have the release notes, so we know what the changes are going to be ahead of time and what's going to happen. So it really makes it less of an event, and you always come into the most modern tool every day when you log in. And same thing with if there's issues, right? So one of the weaknesses, and everybody knows this, of moving to a cloud-based system is what happens when AWS has a problem. That just happened, but things recovered very, very quickly. It's not the same as having to wait for somebody to show up on site to put a patch in, to put an update in, to remote into your system. You're able to handle it without going to another third party to resolve the situation. It's a total game changer when you're sitting in a location at a practice.
And to put it simply, like design the system for the client needs, not adjust the client needs to your system. Like that also like, like to put it very simple. Like, we design it to your needs versus like, hey, this is what we have. Try to adjust your entire workflow to what we have.
All right. So if we bring it a little bit closer to home for some of these practices that maybe aren't part of a DSO, maybe one or two locations, a little bit smaller practice. Sam, what would you say is the biggest misconception that small practices have about moving to the cloud?
I would say in the past, again, some of the cloud infrastructure were not there. So there's this scare of the cloud. Like, hey, I'm gonna go to the cloud. If I go down, I can't function in my practice anymore. And so that's one. Second is I will lose access to all my data. I'm not in control of my practice anymore. And the third is what if I lose internet connection? And what should I do if I lose internet connection? And today, with the modern software that we have and the backup solutions for the internet that is available, and how light the cloud is, like all of this got addressed, and it's stories from the past. Also, like, do I need to go ahead and go to the cloud versus my IT building a robust server and robust security, and I don't have to worry about it. Like so this is all cases and scenarios. And I want to say this. There is a case still like for one doctor, one location, just bought the server, have everything, they're happy with it. Yeah. But it depends about the needs and what they want. Like the second they start thinking like, hey, I don't want to worry about backup. I don't want to worry about uptime. I don't want to worry about upgrades to my servers or updates. I want to get the latest and greatest. I want to work on my efficiencies and my numbers and my reports. It's like all this kind of stuff. I want more visibility to my AR. I want more visibility to my claims. I want more robust stuff. Then that's when they need to think about the cloud. In my future, I have a second location. Maybe I need to join a DSO, and Ken can maybe this is I'm gonna kind of like shift a little bit, but he can talk a little bit about also about what they call tech debt. Like because if you're very adequate, there is something called tech debt. Like there is an actual debt in the technology that you need to pay in order to get up to the standard of what's going on today.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing that everyone that is on here that's part of a individual practice or a couple locations versus a DSO. We go through the same motions just many times, right? So I'll tell you what we were apprehensive about at first was cost. Like I pay nothing. I pay early on and I pay an annual maintenance fee. This is going to cost me a monthly fee now. But that's not true. As you're just shifting where your costs are going to be, you can spend between $20,000 and $50,000 for a server, and then when that server has a problem, you're paying somebody to maintain it. You're paying for a backup. So if you start looking at all those costs, so that was the first thing that was like, Sam could break it down really easy for us, saying, yeah, it seems like you're spending more, but in many cases, if you're already in an environment where it's being hosted somewhere else, you're probably going to spend a lot less. So there was an initial misconception of the cost element. The other side of it is if you're a practice, then don't pretend you're a data center. And that's the advice I would give to everyone. You shouldn't be housing and maintaining and owning all that data on-prem because it takes one fire, one flood, one break-in to devastate your organization and potentially put you in legal trouble. So let's not worry about you losing your data or not being able to maintain your data. So that's another misconception that some of the smaller practices, I don't go and mandate to anybody you have to make this change. We have that conversation. So I'm having the same conversation with surgeons and practice leaders that anyone else would be. And so that was the other, Sam was mentioning not having access to data. You actually have more access to data in a cloud environment than not. And I would say, not a misconception, but something that everyone needs to consider if you're moving to a cloud, right? You just shift your focus on what's important. I could have a practice on on-prem system that doesn't even need internet, right? You can operate. Your infrastructure at your location, your internet service provider, all that becomes more of a focus than it is around the individual servers, probably sitting under somebody's desk. You tell all of us can tell horror stories about where we've seen the server setups and IT closets, but those are the things that we take out so we can really let our practice managers and practice leaders focus on patient care, not on the technology sitting right there that they could potentially kick or spill something on.
Which is what I think is the point sometimes from this entire technology to get the doctors more time, make them more efficient, and whatever the time they want to use it for. With their family, seeing more patient, depends about their personal goals. That's our kind of like job to give them that time and less worry and more access.
And Ken, working with so many offices, you probably see some offices that the whole team's really excited and they're wanting to jump on new technology. And you probably see some that maybe the doctor's excited and their staff isn't. I guess what advice would you give to a practice owner, like introducing new technology to a team that might be skeptical?
Yeah, the very first thing I would say is change is hard. Even good change is hard. I always use this analogy with people. If you learn to drive a manual transmission car and you move to an automatic, it feels really weird. It feels off. You don't know what to do with your right hand and your left foot. That doesn't mean it was a bad change, especially if you live where it snows, right? Moving to an automatic transmission is a really good thing, but it can still feel bad. So I would say any technology project is really a people project, and you have to manage that change. I would say what I've been very impressed with is the training approach that we've been able to put together with you guys. And we're leaning even more on that side to say, okay, are we making sure when we walk away the people are comfortable? Are we circling back to them? That is the technology works. I'll tell everyone on here this technology works. So does the old technology. So you might be asking yourself, why do I need to change? Because you can do more with it, but you can't do more with it if you don't bring the people along with you and help them understand how to use the new technology and get comfortable with it. I remember the first time I used Outlook. I thought it was horrible, the worst thing ever. Now I can't imagine using something else. So the change is always going to feel bad. It's how you manage people through it. And I would say definitely think about the people that are going to be using it, how they're going to be using it. Are they front of the house? Are they back of the house? And making sure you very, very much target the training and make sure people show up for it.
Yeah. So once you kind of have the team on board, one thing that we get asked a lot as we're talking to practices about, moving to the cloud, and a concern that comes up quite often is security and compliance in cloud with AI. So kind of want to discuss that a little bit. And Sam, I know this is one of your babies, very passionate about it, which is what we need. But what does secure cloud actually mean in practice?
I mean, let's break down security a little bit. With a regular server, you're maintaining a lot. Like in order to be compliant, you're maintaining backups, verifying backups because not every backup is a good backup. Verifying a backup, the time for the backup. Then you're maintaining your antivirus, firewall, access to all that, access or permissions, what your IT have access to, your uptime, your compliance when it comes to updates and all this kind of stuff. So all this security comes, with a price tag, and it comes as a responsibility for the practice. When we shift again to a cloud compliance, we're using go back to AWS infrastructure and Amazon. We're using an enterprise grade, military grade security encryption, multi-layer access, monitoring 24/7, backup across regions, and duplicated backup across. So back to Ken comment about you're not a data center. You're never going to be, exactly like DSN. We're never going to build a infrastructure like the size of AWS infrastructure. So when it comes to security, I want to say it's always go with the best, configure the best, and go with the best practices. And that's what we have been doing. With the cloud, you're shifting all of this from backup, disaster recovery, compliance, monitoring, uptime, access. You get hit, your employee click on something, your database is secure. There is a layer between what you're doing with the cloud and what you're doing at your practice. So you have all of that. An employee leaves, then all the access is there. You have all the logs. So from a security standpoint, it shifts the game completely, 100% from a security standpoint.
Ken, how did USOSM ensure its practices stayed compliant?
I mean, number one, we have a really, really great security officer that goes through and checks those. And it is a lot easier to be compliant when you're going through something that has the rigor and behind it that something like AWS does, and what you're using there. You must follow rules. Sam won't let us go into a system unless it's following those security compliance rules, because ultimately it's not just our necks on the line, it's DSN's neck on the line to make sure that they are managing our data the appropriate way. And so, I mean, we went through an extensive, and I know some of us starts to shiver when we talk about our legal teams going through things, because it's such a long, arduous process. But we are making sure that each of those boxes are checked, that our data is being managed in such a way that we remain HIPAA compliant, PCI compliant for taking payments, and we would not have ever put a single piece of data in there without that being the case. That being said, when it comes to from a recovery and a backup perspective, you guys know because we went through it. Sometimes the local ITs are taking backups, but they aren't validating that those backups are working and that they aren't corrupted. And so, we've had to go through exercises before of getting data recovered off of tapes, and that is a scary thought. Now, luckily, you guys had a backup that we could use, and we were able to operate off of that. But we thought we had lost data that we were required to maintain over a period of time. That's not an issue. We have to lose 7 states in order to lose the data stored in AWS. So, and it's redundant and backed up. And the other thing, and this is something maybe Sam, you want to hit on a little bit. Just because it's all in the cloud and in the same system and in an enterprise system, doesn't mean that if one practice gets exposed, that they're all exposed. And that's one thing that we talked about is the way this is set up from a DSN Cloud perspective is practices data are protected across the system.
And also from our enterprise, standpoint, one location going down and losing internet doesn't mean any of the other locations would be affected. Because in our cloud and the way that is set up, it's truly like each practice technically is isolated from the others. Yes, they're connected in a way, but they're isolated. So, and that's also another thing. Like, hey, you lose internet at one location. That doesn't mean where the server is used to be hosted. That doesn't mean your entire portfolio is down just because where the server is didn't have enough backup, or they had hurricane or weather or issues or snow, like any of that. So the whole thing will stay up. So from a security standpoint, the same exact thing. Each of our practices are hosted in a way that is isolated from the others. If we have any events at any of them, that doesn't mean any of the rest will be exposed. If we have it with one client, that doesn't mean the rest of the clients will be exposed. This is not the way that DSN Enterprise or DSN Cloud operating.
That was a requirement of ours as well, right? I mean, we needed that to be the case.
Yes.
I was just going to say, you'd mentioned internet going down, and that's something that we hear, anytime we're talking to an office about the cloud, one of their first questions is, what if the internet goes down? And we always, tell them we recommend some sort of redundancy. How are, what would be your recommendations? And Ken, how are you setting offices up so they have a kind of a second layer of protection with that?
Yeah, so there's a few things that we're looking at. One is making sure we have backup services. So if you're on AT&T somewhere, then you have Spectrum as a backup. The problem with that is that can be costly. So we are looking at other options too. Starlink if they're in a remote area as a backup, or maybe even a primary, depending on where they are. Not everybody's in LA where you have 15 different options. So we are making sure that we're taking inventory, because everyone out there, if you've not looked at your internet service provider options in your area, they're like insurance, right? You don't have loyalty for being there for a long time. Likely you're not getting their best service at their best price unless you make a change or you call them and threaten to leave. So just recommend everybody go look at what you're paying for and see if you're getting the best speed at the best price. And that is going to be I'll say that's important for us, but it's not necessarily important to make cloud any faster. You actually, if you have a multi-office location talking back to a server, it's faster than a VPN connection is. But everything is moving to be internet based. So you're going to have a lot of traffic coming in and out. So you're going to do emails and imaging is really what we want to make sure we have plenty of bandwidth for. So please make sure that you not only have internet, but you're looking for a viable backup solution. So if that internet goes down, now, if you lose power, if you lose power, that's not an IT problem. Everyone thinks it is, but we can't make the internet work if there is no power in the building. But you're going to have a problem with your older solution in that situation anyway. So just make sure you have redundant internet service at your location.
And just to add, how many of your locations have even regular phone lines now? Your phone system is down if you don't have internet, all VoIP now.
Right.
So so you need a good internet regardless if you have a good server or not. like or you go cloud or not. Like everything now is depending on, like technically like internet.
All right, thank you. So we've talked a little bit about kind of where we're at now, some of the main questions we get, but I'd like to talk for a few minutes about the future and where technology's going. We're hearing a lot about AI. Um, so kind of like what the vision is for moving forward for DSN Cloud for AI. So I guess both of you, what part of AI are you most excited about? What part are you most cautious about? What are some of the things that DSN has coming?
Sure. I will tell you what we're excited about here, and because Sam knows way more about AI than I probably ever will. And I'll say there's a few areas for us. The most notable, ambient listening, is probably bubbled up to the top. The more doctors are able to make eye contact with their patients, to have them in a chair and be doing surgeries, the more productive we are as an organization. But also the more connection they can make with their patients. So ambient listening devices are something that's probably at the forefront of some of this. But also, I want my IT folks to be able to focus on the problems that we can solve. And if they need to reach DSN with a problem, chatbots, things like that can help us get to our problem and maybe not have to wait for some. Because look, a lot of times it's user error, right? And we can get to those with an AI chatbot and not have to take up one of the even if it's a few minutes of a developer's time, right? That's costly for everybody. So that's another component that we're looking at. And then obviously anywhere that we can take and not have to use human minds and human hands to come with an answer with information that's already in the system, that's where we're going to lean heavily on DSN to help lead us into the future. So that's another component. And including, because we got to see a demo of some really neat voice interaction stuff with DSN as well that you would not even know. It's scary. You wouldn't even know you're not talking to a real person. Now they let you know that it's an AI voice, but it really was helpful from an interaction perspective to see you ask the question. It helps you get to an answer. Maybe a person doesn't have to be available.
I can tell you, Kim here is real. So
Yeah,
she,
well,
she yeah, Kim is real. She's not AI.
is she? I was waiting to see if she was going to react to it, but
She is. There you go. So, like when it comes to AI, I wish I can tell you today, like we can automate your entire practice and we have the answer to every single thing about AI. There is a lot of buzz about AI. Everybody's asking for it. Everyone want to adopt it. Everyone want to say, I use AI at my practice. There is like a need for people to say this. And I want to say the most important thing by anything new that come up with technology is to see how we can use it best, how it's going to apply to us, and how it's going to have real case and uses, like in our life and our practice. And there is a lot of things that people sometimes don't think about. And I'm going to shift back a little bit and go back forward into the conversation. Like a couple of years ago, when the AI models and all these people with AI note taking start coming out, the models were built with no privacy. And people start asking them basic data and inputting stuff in there, and now it's out in the open. And that's technically considered a breach. Like, did you know if the service you are using is compliant or not? Like to what level it's compliant? Is it sharing back with open, like AI neural engines or not? And that's really a concern. So for us at DSNM, because I come from a heavy cybersecurity background, like I have to buzz, validate, verify, and look at how we can use this technology, protect our practices, protect our doctors, because sometimes, like our legislators comes later with laws and say like this was illegal, this was a problem, because sometimes they don't keep up with the technology. And AI going to become a problem with that because right now that it's like kind of like the Wild West, like everybody is doing whatever they want with AI, but at some point it's going to be regulated. With that being said, like we did release an incredible, I feel like very helpful AI features at Amos. Some of them is AI note taking, and some of them the AI voice, which is going to do all the follow-ups, and the chat features, which is now you can ask the AI anything within the software. It really helps guide all our users. What you said, Ken, is really important because I've been hearing this from our doctors all the time. It's what's the most exhausting is, hey, I need to leave the room and I need to put my notes into the system and I need to sign my note and I have to do all of them at the end of the day. Some of them do it during lunch, and it almost takes more time to do the note than the consult itself. That's an amazing use of AI that you go in, you talk to the patient, and somebody else will do the note for you. And that's something that we released beta and we are releasing to our users. That's an incredible use. Anything that has to do with asking AI, with the data, with the knowledge base, this is all great, amazing uses for it. But again, like we need to make sure that we apply real cases because sometimes applying the wrong solutions take more time than like trying to figure it out and make it all work and copy and paste. It takes more time than doing your own note at that point. So integrations and like responsiveness to the solutions and what's out in the industry matters. We are releasing some AI imaging features as well, which is save the doctors from clicking and tracing the nerves and highlighting the sinus cavities. So this is our incredible time savings for the surgeons. Like one click, the AI do it for you. And then it makes a great presentation. It bring you very amazing high colors and all that. So that's an incredible feature that we think that there will be an amazing use for our doctors.
I think some of the older imaging process, while it was great for surgeons and absolutely needed, and it didn't necessarily translate when you were talking to a patient about what was going on. But some of these newer technologies with the colors and the way things separate and the realness of it is something that is easier now when a surgeon's having a conversation with the patient and saying, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. It's a lot easier to follow. So I know very little about the imaging side of things for my background, but when we went through it with you guys and showing what's coming down the line, what the future of this imaging is, I was like, oh, that's what they mean when they say that. That's the location in there that they're talking about.
And what's next for us? We're going to continue to see what this incredible innovation, the AI gets better every single day. As our software, as the industry, technology is going in an insane fast way now. We're going to continue to get the feedback, like we're going to see what's being out there. We're going to see what we can use to automate and give more time back to admin and doctors combined, and how we can give more time to spend time with the patient, whatever the doctor want to do, and whatever the admin want to do with the time. And that's what we're going to be focusing next.
I think it's very important, and we heard this feedback as one of our surgeons was at a practice that had DSN Cloud, and they were looking through it, and it's like, oh, I would do that, I wouldn't do that. And I use this analogy because I'm from Texas. I'm a barbecue guy. Everyone can forgive me, but it used to be when you're cooking a pork butt, you use a thermometer, and then you start going by feel, right? You know that some doctors are at the point where they know by feel and by sound something different, and they don't want anything else to get in the way. So what I appreciate about what's been developed with AI, and it's a smart way to do it, is it's there. I can use these AI components, but if it's going to distract me from what makes me a great surgeon, I don't have to use it. It's an option to use. And I think that's important because you have an oral surgeon that's been there for 15, 20 years doing it, and they develop a feel for it. You want that art part of it, right? And mix with that silent. But if you have someone that's just come out and they're just starting a practice, or they're just coming in and they've gotten used to this technology early on as part of what they are, you want them to have the option to use it. So you don't want to be stuck with a system that is black and white and doesn't allow you to make those choices.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep. So Sam, we talked about AI and kind of some of the things that are coming. Any other sneak peeks you want to give into what's going on in your mind about where we could go in the future?
I will say there's, like anything that has admin work that needs to be a great case for AI. Anything that have repetitive tasks, it's an incredible use case of AI. I will say what's going on right now, all the reminders should be a case of AI. All the documentation gathering from the patients, from ID, insurance verification, give us your insurance information, follow-up calls. That's coming up with AI. I would say RCM functions from insurance verification, validation of the claims, learning of the claims. If you are doing something or missing something before submit a claim, AI needs to come back and tell you. And I will say, as like this is some of the features of the cloud because you have like so much fast, you have so many databases, you have the AWS infrastructure, the connectivity, the access again. In the future, AI with all this, like it could give you advices on how to submit a claim more successfully and better, easier, and how to save time. And that's where we are heading for sure. So that's I would say, immediate use for AI within the next, like couple quarters.
All
And then
right.
next year, we don't even know where we're going to be with
Okay.
AI next year, and that's the beautiful thing, and why we touch base so often, and why we're partners in this because we're going to come up with a new need, and what I love about Sam loves to solve problems, so DSN then will go in and try to tackle those issues, and I promise you that there's things that we have not even thought of yet by this time next year that we're going to be talking about using AI for.
And I want to say, like, it's incredible when, like it's an engineer dream to sit down and have somebody tell them, like, this is what we have in our office, this is our vision, this is what we want you guys to develop. It just makes our life a lot easier because now we know we are developing meaningful solution that is requested by our partner. And that makes a whole lot of difference, like, and then seeing the excitement and seeing the solution put to life and use right away after production, it's just a whole different game.
And AI, just to make everybody maybe feel a little bit more comfortable, we're not looking at this as replacing people. We're looking at this enhancing people. There is a need for a surgeon to review anything in AI. AI is put on a piece of paper because that is their word, and they want to review that it says what it's supposed to. So what we're seeing is AI helps us enhance and be able to see more patients and not let things fall through the crack. Not oh my gosh, we can go down headcount at a practice. None of that is the focus. It is making us better at what we do, not replacing people.
Well said. So before we wrap this up, I'm going to check the questions. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you guys want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to kind of put as any closing remarks before we wrap up?
What I want to say is, as Ken said it in the very beginning, change is hard. Like you have to choose where you at within the industry, within your I would say colleague or competitors, however you view other surgeons and other people in the area, and a change might be harder for the practice, but it might make the patient's life a lot easier with access, with payments, with patient registration forms, with the people they interact with the practice. Like change always hard, no matter how you put it in, no matter how you slice it. I would say, in order to make your house look beautiful, you're gonna go through a lot of dust. So that's how I put the change in simply. Same in technology. A lot of changes. We push updates to DSN Cloud every single month. So it just gets better every 4 weeks. So
I would say just for anyone that's either whether you're part of USOSM or someone joining that's outside of it, the healthcare industry as a whole is unique because while we are in here, we're trying to make money, we're trying to do that. Our focus, number one priority, is patient care. And so I would love to see an industry where access to accurate data so surgeons, so doctors can make the best decision possible for a patient is just normal. And we don't have to fight with old systems and poor access to our data. That is why partnering with folks like DSN, with other DSOs, with other people in the industry is important, because very first and foremost on my mind is creating a better patient experience across the board for everyone. And if we keep that focus in mind, we can't do anything but the right thing. And so I think a natural progression of that is getting better at technology and making it making our information more accessible to our surgeons to help our patients.
Great.
Thank you, guys. We don't have time for all the questions, but there are a couple that I'll ask before we finish up here. One of the questions that came up a couple of times is, will DSN Cloud be compatible with different phone services? So like Weave and Tivio, some of the ones that we're seeing.
Yes, DSN have an integration with both Weave and Intivio and some other ones too. We keep expanding our integrations to new partners as well. But yes, DSN Cloud does have the integration with Weave and Intivio.
And probably the question we're getting most often in here is related to imaging. So Sam, would you be able to just give a big picture of DSN imaging? Some of the questions are whether you have to maintain the server, how that works for viewing across locations. There's a couple of different ways that it's asked, but the big picture on DSN imaging.
Absolutely. DSN imaging is compatible with all kind of X-ray units. You'll be able to view different images, different DICOMs from different CBCT units, different 3D studies, no matter what, let's say location 1 have Plan Mecca, location 2 have ICAT, all the study goes under the patient so that you'll be able to view all the studies no matter what. Once you capture the image, you still need an acquisition computer because that's the computer that came and the license from the manufacturer of the unit. So you capture the image and that's it. DSN Cloud imaging will grab that image and now it's accessible anywhere in the world and access to you can have it. You can share it with other providers. You can view it. You can look at the study. You can share an actual study. You can download the study. You can view it from home. All that. So that's pretty much DSN Cloud imaging because it unifies. In the past, you needed licenses and on every computer in your practice. So that you don't need that anymore. Sometimes you need licenses for different X-ray systems. Like if you don't have an ICAT in your office, but another office have an ICAT, there is a problem to view that image and export it and import it and do all that. It saves you time from doing any of that.
And somebody's asking specifically if that means that you can view the images from your phone.
You can, yes. Cloud imaging is compatible from phones and from tablets.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that was really helpful. If there's questions that we didn't get to, we'll respond to you individually when we're done here. There's some questions about pricing. Pricing for DSN Cloud is strictly by doctor and location. It's a really simple formula, easy to calculate growth. So we can get back to you individually for those questions. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to DSN. Feel free to reach out to USOSM with any questions that you have, or if we can provide a demo for you. All right. Thank you, Sam and Ken, so much for all the good information.
Ken, I appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.